Welcome all. This is David Celani speaking to you from my home office in Vermont. And I want to invite you to attend a course that I am giving through the Object Relations Institute in New York City on the work of Ronald Fairbairn, a very, very obscure psychoanalytic theorist who has had a sudden revival of his model, which is very, very different than classical psychoanalytic models. Fairbairn's model fits into three categories in the psychoanalytic world. The first is it's a relational model. That is, it assumes that personality development comes through the relationship that the child has with his parents. It is not a consequence of the drive or id or libido, as Freud said. So this is a model that does not overlap Freudianism whatsoever. And that's why it is poorly known, because the psychoanalytic community in the old days wanted nothing to do with it, because it was an alternative model to Freud. Secondly, this is a trauma and dissociation model. There's a lot of them around now. Trauma is early childhood trauma that is it is overwhelming to the child, and it cannot be understood because it will throw a bad light on the child's dependency on his parents. So the child cannot accept this, and it overwhelms the child's ego, and the child basically dissociates. And that's the fundamental defense mechanism of Fairbairn's model. Dissociation is forced forgetting. The event is shoved into the unconscious of the child and is held there, and it sits there, and it's independent of the central ego. That is, the child's regular sense of self does not include this memory of trauma. And it has to be this way because in dysfunctional families, there's so many of these events that have to be dissociated that the child has to do it, because otherwise he would realize, he or she, that he's living in a dangerous, unloving world with no help or support. That's the trauma and dissociation model. Thirdly, we have a developmental arrest model. Now, developmental arrest is linked to trauma and indifference. Indifference is another form of trauma. It's not as dramatic, but to just push the kid off and leave him in his room is a traumatic event for a child. The developmental arrest occurs because the very act of growing up requires constant support, constant interest on the parent's part, and constant instruction and protection of the child from the confusion and the dangers, actually, of the world. So without this support, the child cannot go up the ladder of development, the ladder starting with, the dependent nursing child to the child that goes to school, the child that gradually separates, the child that then goes to their friend's house when they're 12 or 9 or 11 and sleeps over, the child that at 15 or 16 starts to go interest in the other sex, and the child that finally goes to college. These events don't happen automatically. They need support at every step of the way. And the dysfunctional parent does not give it, so the child is stuck at an earlier developmental stage. That's what we mean by developmental arrest. So this model, it's a relational model, it's a trauma dissociation model, and it's a developmental arrest model. Who in the world are you going to see in your office that has these characteristics? Well, it turns out that most people like this. The type of patient that you are going to be able to apply this model to are people that come in with a sense of desperation, a sense of chaos, people that can be very aggressive toward you or aggressive toward others, people that then, in the context of their aggression, they can become very dependent, and then they can be very frightened. All these powerful emotions overwhelmed them in different ways at different times. These were people that were specifically excluded from psychoanalysis by the field because they were unanalyzable, which meant they weren't going to get treatment. Well, in this model of psychoanalysis, this is our group. And I'm sure if you have a practice, you've seen people like this. They are very difficult to deal with, and they can, without a new model of understanding what's wrong with them, the old model, classical psychoanalysis, has no way of whatsoever. So that's our patient population. Our course starts on September 2nd and goes to the end of the month, which is September 30th. It's on Wednesdays. It's 2 hours. And the first hour of every session will be a 1-hour lecture from me, and the second hour will be group supervision. So obviously, this is a class that's designed for people that have practices and that want supervision with their patients. I have to say, we have done this. This is our 4th time, I believe. And the last time, which was just we finished about a month ago, was the most unbelievably lively and active group that you've ever seen, with the patients that would just curl your hair, including one patient that ended up, the therapist had to get a restraining order against this patient. The most active, interesting group I have ever had, and I'm 80 years old. It was just an unbelievable experience. So if you have this type of patient, this is the type of group for you. Here are the lecture topics that I'm going to talk about. Again, each session will start with a 1-hour lecture. On September 2nd, the first class, I will talk about Fairbairn and the people that influenced him, which includes Ian Suttie, and Suttie's emphasis on the child's dependency on his objects. And Fairbairn took this as the basis of his model and said, yes, the child is enormously dependent. And that's why the child is easily overwhelmed by any event that shows him or her that the parents don't care for. Why? He's so dependent, he cannot hear this. It's intolerable to know this. So that's where the dissociation happens. So we will discuss the Fairbairn's writing on dependency, how extreme it is in children, and how it feels to them to be life-threatening. That's our first class. The second class is on Fairbairn's concept of splitting, which he took from Melanie Klein. He didn't invent the idea, but he adapted it from Klein, who had a model that was a mixed model. Klein's model has drive and relationality in it. Fairbairn got rid of the drive, and it's purely relational. The drive in Klein's theory was the death instinct of a Freudian concept that didn't find too many supporters, but Klein emphasized it. So the child has to split. Splitting is forced dissociation. So the child has to forcibly dissociate all these events into his or her unconscious that prove that the parent is not loving, supportive, or providing safety. And the essential dilemma for children in dysfunctional families is that they have to go to the parent who abused them for nurturance. It's like an impossible situation. They have to dissociate those memories of abuse and say, Mom, I need your help. I'm desperate. I'm frightened. And it was you that created it. Well, they don't think that. That's dissociated. That's not in their mind. That's the dilemma of the abused child. The third lecture will talk about the internal dynamics of Fairbairn's theory. He has a structural theory, but unlike the id, the ego, and the superego, each structure is a pair. There's a self and an object in every case. There's three pairs. Makes it complex, but it is completely understandable if you've ever seen a patient in your office. You can see these things. These are real. Although these are metaphors, these are names for things that you actually see in the office. Fairbairn was a man in 2 centuries. He was a classical Freudian trying to give birth to a completely new model. And in the process, he was stuck because he had to use the old language and the old concepts to explain the new concepts, if you see what I mean. And a lot of the old metaphors that he used were from Freud. And so he has a mishmash, kind of a messy model when it comes to what's going on inside the patient's head. I have written 5 books on Fairbairn, many papers as well. And my role in life seems to be to clean up Fairbairn's model, to make it understandable and get all the contradictions and the mixed metaphors out of it and show the patients or the therapist population how this model works. And so that session will be focused on what Fairbairn said, what mistakes he had made, and how do we clean it. The fourth lecture, which will be later in September, is the 3 defenses that emerge directly from his model. You'll see, every psychoanalyst that's a Freudian has seen these defenses, although they don't name them the same way because, oh my goodness, they won't read Fairbairn. They don't want to have anything to do with them. And they are, first, the patient's avoidance, absolute avoidance of accepting, understanding, and remembering the nightmare that happened to him or her in childhood. Your patients will not want to remember this stuff. And they will do everything to excuse their parents and tell you they were wonderful. And it's almost comic, not quite, but almost. The backflips they will do to avoid accepting and understanding the nightmare that their childhood was. The second defense is the defense that comes from these internal structures, which I have not named, but each of these 2 unconscious internal structures, one, the anti-libidinal ego and the rejecting object, and then the libidinal ego and the exciting object, they generate resistance to change because they each have a mission that they want to accomplish. The anti-libidinal ego wants to convince the internalized rejecting parent that he or she is a good person, is valuable, is important, and should be treated with respect. And failing that, they want to destroy the bad object parent. That's the mission of the first dissociated pair. And the mission of the second dissociated pair is just the opposite. This second pair, which is called the libidinal ego, relates to the parent as an exciting object, has a fantasy. And Leonard Shengo, who wrote a book called Soul Murder, he used different metaphors. He was a Freudian. And he saw the exact same thing in his patients, which tells you have a robust phenomenon. And he said it's a delusion. They have a delusion that the parent is a loving object. Fairbairn didn't use the word delusion. He said they have a separate ego state that sees only the good parts of the parent and loves and hopes and wishes for a loving, supportive relationship. Well, these 2 structures do not want to give up their fight. That's their lifelong fight. And so resistance to your treatment comes from these structures. And finally, the third source. And Fairbairn knew about these, wrote about them very carefully, very clearly. It's the best part of his model. He said the third is the fact that the child has developed an inner world, which is the unconscious. And the child, and now adult, doesn't want anybody interfering with what goes on. It sees people in these rigid early ways, early meaning seeing everybody as a rejecting object or everybody as an exciting object, and doesn't want to give an inch. It's different from the prior one because the whole structure fights anybody getting in there and anybody external getting in there and influencing them. And of course, who's external? You are the therapist. And so they will fight and they'll have transferences and repetition. They'll do everything in their world not to see you as the person that you really are. And finally, our last 1 hour lecture will be, how do you do this? How do you apply this model? This is application. This model is usable. It's not some hypothetical. It's usable. And I will talk about setting up a clinical narrative. That is a clinical model of what you say to the patient and what you are aiming for. What are you trying to undo in the patient's psyche, and which is to focus on the parent's failures. And only that. You don't Oedipus, none of that other stuff. You focus on the parent's failures and you back away when the patient gets defensive because you don't want to create more defenses. You back away, back to it, and it describes how one works with these very chaotic and difficult patients. Okay, that's an overview of the course. 5 sessions, 10 hours total, 5 hours of lecture, 5 hours of supervision, starting on September 2nd, all done by Zoom and sponsored by the Object Relations Institute in New York City. Thank you.